Day of Introspection, a 2C-P and Ketamine trip report by Particle 16, posted to earwid.org, May 7th, 2009. I spent a lot of the last week reading experience reports, as well as Shulgin's brief notes regarding 2C-P. The reports were varied, and for the most part every bad report I read screamed of people without proper planning, set or setting. This sounded like serious stuff, so it deserved some respect and planning. So we decided to get up in the morning and spend 16 hours on this strange psychedelic after being well rested, and not disrupt the sleeping patterns of our holidays too much. This 2C-P I picked up about 4 years ago or so was a side note to a lot of 2CI that I got at the time. The 2CI was pretty hit and miss, a few times being barely noticeable, and one time quite strong. So we had a few caps of 6mg and 10mg, and considering the age I decided we might as well try with 10. I weigh about 85 kilograms and am a vegan. In the past we've tried a variety of acid tabs, MDMA, baby woodrose seeds, DMT, salvia, several types of mushrooms and a large amount of ketamine, as far as psychedelic substance experience goes. At 10:15 am, 10mg of 2C-P taken in a gel cap with water. Nothing had been eaten since the day before other than a single piece of toast with some nutty spread. 11:18 am. Something is slowly happening. My back is sore like another report I read, but this could be from the fact that I've spent the last hour running up and down the stairs in the process of setting up our environment, and I'm sitting weirdly towards the PC as the audio cable is a little short to the amp. I generally have pretty bad posture, I think. I feel like the onset of MDMA, but in the very early stages. My cheeks are tingling a little bit, and listening to trippy music on large speakers is a dash trippier than usual. I assume this is anxiety. 11:27 am. Time to watch something, as I'm restless, energetic. 11:44 am. Feeling a little giddy, a tiny bit confused and flustered. This could all be anxiety though, with a little bit of jaw clenching and the temperature getting a bit colder as well. Guess we should start feeling things soon. 12:03 PM. Going to the toilet a bit to urinate, probably anxiety again. I'm drinking quite a bit of liquid too. I think I'm seeing tiny traces and shadows occasionally. My stomach is a bit bloated. There's a slight euphoria and giddiness. At this stage I notice a trail of ants going to the dishwasher. For the next hour I swept up ants occasionally and threw them out the back. I think I imagine the amount of ants occasionally though, and as I often do on acid, I get a bit hung up about mess in our very clean place and resist the urge to tidy up. 12:25 PM. There are some fairly strong onset moments. A bit of discomfort, but once I focus on relaxing, getting over those things, they disappear and a light euphoria returns. Throughout the last hour, I felt a little cold, and it's bothered me more than it should. 1:25 PM, things are a little intense by now. Trying to watch a movie till the end, but emotions and feelings seem to be intertwined. I think visuals and the like will hit when I let go. Just getting over the discomfort for a bit. 1:49. Pretty overwhelmed now. Visuals and swirling hitting hard. Discomfort comes in waves and is mainly due to the intensity. I notice stronger colourings in peripheral vision and movement in shadows. A slight trembling like on acid. 2:09 PM. Had to deal with the cat being sketchy. I'm so overwhelmed at this stage, I feel like giggling a lot. 3:18 PM. I'm totally gone now. Very strong swirling visuals and colours are present and typing is very hard. 5:17 PM. Still powerful visuals. Time for some music, I think. The music was rather intense. I think we missed a few hours of this at its major peak by trying to focus on a funny series. That was a lot of fun, but it can tire you out fairly quickly, especially with an overload of the senses going on. Time seems to have gone rather quickly as well. The visuals during the music were a bit more abstract, plastic and futuristic as compared to the more organic fractals I've felt on acid before. 6:01 PM. Put some food on to heat, and now I put the TV on. Let me say, Bold and the Beautiful is a dodgy show in this situation, but we're having trouble deciding what we want to watch in terms of entertainment. 6:48 PM. Getting tired, still a strong long vibe and colourings. 8:12 PM, and we just noticed in the last half hour that things are starting to wind down a little. having eaten some steamed Asian buns and some fresh Turkish bread with oil. Watched an episode of Jamie at home and craved for some fantastic pumpkin soup. Real craving for tasty food going on right now. E just got a phone call from her mum. It wasn't exactly good news either, but she's holding together fine. So she's had to snap back hard into having it together, and she's had a couple of Panadine too for a mild headache she was getting, and an immunisation injection she had in the morning that has left her arm sore and a little bruised. I made some realizations during the music regarding negativity in my life at work. I feel like I'm going to have a fresh approach on it for the new year. Still considering some ketamine way later. We'll see how that goes. I'm not considering cannabis though. Normally I'd love it to relax and lose some of the edge, but I know that with acid and 2CI it brings the intensity back, and I don't want that either. 11 PM, just passing the 12-hour mark, and there are still colourings, a bit of a fuzzy and confused head, but that's mixing in with the tiredness now. At 1 AM or so, it's time to prepare the ketamine. I crush up 300mg finally and set up my MP3 player and environment. E is a bit too tired for it, and I'm somewhat prepared for this to be very intense, which I know she's not really into, and she's worried about not being able to sleep, as I'm about to find out. I cut the ketamine up into 3 lines and snort the first one. I can barely feel it even going in, which is surprising. So, I clean up the last 2 lines, and after about 2 to 3 minutes snort the last 2 lines as well, distributing them between the nostrils. I go and lie down on the bed. E tucks me in, and I put on some music. From what I remember, I didn't feel the K on set at all, and never tasted it either. From what I remember 2 days later, the trip was beyond intense. Probably the most intense I've ever had, including combining ketamine with 2CI, acid and mushrooms on separate occasions. It's hard to remember sequence, but I do remember bits while being totally knocked out. There is a portion of chamber movement I usually feel on K. These chambers usually involve people that are dear to me, and probably the portions of the mind that store my memories and understanding of them. I feel their essence or spirit. This time it was extremely vivid and in a similar fashion to Neo in the first Matrix breaking out of the harvesting growing chamber he was in. In that moment, I felt like I broke out from the constraint on rails that my ketamine trip usually has, and despite how chaotic it was, I felt a large amount of control throughout the whole journey. I felt interaction with a few beings as well. Not sure who they were exactly, but one of them was definitely a black rapper, while the other was wearing a spacesuit. It's surprising because hardly ever do I actually feel real people on Ket, and rarely are they ever full visual and personal experiences. I'm not sure what they taught me, but it felt like a debrief to a mission. I remember feeling like I was very high up, and looked straight across and saw large high-rise apartment buildings. I saw every person in those buildings, and understood that each of these was a single organism with just a slight difference between them. I make a realization about each human being and its wants and needs being a collective combination of the instincts within each cell and atom within them. Therefore, one person longing for their girlfriend is really just a combination of their cells and their survival instinct, and everything really just being a refined combination of the needs hierarchy. I remember something about Gaia and humanity's abuse of the Earth. Wonder why people don't embrace this planet a bit more. And I'm reminded of video games where the likes of the Protoss feel a nationalistic honour for their home planet. I wonder if humanity could ever embrace this in the same way. I'm a bit of a passionate greenie, so that's an issue dear to my heart. 2 AM. I've snapped out of the K-trip for the most part, and had a moment to remember who I was. At this stage, my brain starts to selectively choose which of the senses it wants to use. For instance, I can feel E's presence in the bed. I can hear our oscillating fan, which is making a harrowing reverb. I can feel the texture of the bed, but my visuals are some sort of dark neon Egyptian theme of exactly the same room I'm in. Then, it'll change and be a beach. Then it'll change and be some sort of futuristic lounge. At times, I feel like I'm outdoors looking up at a canopy of foliage. The oscillation of the fan has a metallic tingle, and my brain interprets 50s American music coming out of an AM radio in a diner. There's a few moments where I lose total knowledge of self. This usually only happens during the ketamine stage from above, after hitting the K-hole. This time I seem to cycle through a few identities, and I'm convinced that I'm speaking according to E. I didn't speak, but had some strange staggered breathing and swallowing. I feel like my body is just a vessel and a giant pool of spiritual identities, to be honest, and it's trying to influence it and possibly take it over, although it's not as scary as it sounds at the time. Think about the idea of getting a human being into this 2C and ketamine state, keeping them suspended in it for nefarious scientific purposes. The potential of the visuals I'm able to generate, just incredible. I see the first atom attracting to another at the dawn of time, and through the cause and effect, see whole galaxies being formed as I fly through them. This extends into all of evolution, through the interaction of organisms and their survival instincts and genetics. I wonder if combined with some sort of telepathy or psychic enhancement, the brain could be used as an intense supercomputer of calculation and simulation. But how could you focus such a beast? Even further, I wonder about manifestation of matter and what could be created if such a psychic enhancer was created. These are the kinds of fairly lucid and structured, yet chaotic and impossible thoughts going through my head right now. 3:50 AM. It's impossible to switch my brain off. It's been running at 10 times the usual speed, and I swear, it's been putting together some amazing graphics and visualizations during this whole time. At this stage, I start to use a meditation technique to selectively focus on less and less things, but my brain is ingenious at trying to keep itself going. I start to think that acid and the like awakens primal vibrations within each cell of the body, and these cells, maybe through their memory of Gaia, are trying to communicate with me directly. But then who really am I? A collective combination of their essence and consciousness? Or could it be that I'm a spirit that attaches to this vessel on its life journey? There's moments when the visualizations are plain evil and menacing, but I'm strong enough to steer them into a positive path. Wonder if a human brain was grown in a lab, where would its consciousness come from? If it was implanted into some other organic creation or otherwise, would it adopt the consciousness of its cells? A lot of my trips centered around these themes, and the wealth of knowledge I felt I had tapped into was purely immense. At this stage I have a Panadine, as the headache I could slightly feel a few hours ago is now coming in slow waves. I don't want it to get any worse, and hope that the combination of paracetamol and codeine might help me sleep. E has been sleeping on and off. I assume she goes into a slow trip and occasionally wakes from it, moves a bit and goes back, sort of like coming down off acid and trying to sleep. It's now 4:30 AM, and I wonder if I'll sleep at all, but my meditative tripping control seems to be working occasionally, and I managed to get myself to a state where I'm pretty sure I can hear myself snoring. I've given up control of my body, and have isolated the last excited part of the brain. 10 AM. I must have slept right after about 4:30 AM. For the rest of the day, I feel really good, if just a little tired, and we have an early night. I smoked some cannabis a few times, but unlike smoking after acid, mushrooms or MDMA, there is no further intensity or comeback of previous effects to the usual stoned feeling. Overall, 2C-P was very interesting. It reminded me of acid and mushrooms without the nausea that I usually get on those. Felt a little bit less natural and organic, but it was enjoyable. The length of time, I think, is a fairly big part in consideration for it though. I lost 24 hours of my life, and a good quarter of the time was discomfort or confusion. The combination of 2Cs and ketamine is insane, as discovered by D.M. Turner. This is a combination that's beyond anything I've ever experienced with the psychedelic drugs I've tried. It has so much control, so much potential, but it's incredibly draining afterwards as well. I needed some serious backbone to stay in control and not have a horrid trip. I must say that as much as I felt in control, I also felt like I hadn't got any control at times as well. I forgot between sections of the trip. Well, this is a combination that's impossible to describe, but I do recommend great caution. Great control over circumstances and surroundings is necessary for this. So I think this is our first time covering 2C-P on the channel. Obviously it's part of the 2C family of chemicals, and it's described by many as 2CB on steroids, according to the user SQQLUT from the 2CB Reddit. He describes it as, or she, I don't know, we're making a lot of assumptions here. Everything is stronger: visuals, duration, body load, potency, including a steeper curve, headspace, confusion, stimulation, overdose risk, and even peristaltic intestinal contractions, hyperactive bowel, and maybe vasoconstriction. I'd recommend having some experience with other phenethylamines, 2CB, 2CE25E, MBOH, before treading on 2CP. Isn't it crazy how many different varieties of chemicals are in that certain class? I've never actually heard of 2CE25E, NBOH before. Just shows you how many different substances there are out there, and I know a lot of you guys are wanting me to cover the lesser known hallucinogens, and I also find them very intriguing, so I'd like to check them out more in the future. Maybe do a whole compilation where I just read loads of different types of uncommon hallucinogenic trip reports. I think that might be quite fun. What was interesting about this report, the part that I really related to more than anything, I've never taken 2CP, I've only taken 2CB as far as I'm aware. Again, this is the thing with taking substances. Unless you're testing it, you don't really know. Some guy could tell you 2CB and like, oh, that 2CB was a bit stronger than usual. Could have been anything. Could have been like a double dose bit of 2CI or 2CP, and you couldn't realise it because obviously they're within the same family of substances that you can't really discern it based on your own consciousness. Or for most people won't be able to unless, you've got a testing kit. So the bit that I related to a lot was where they're sort of coming up and they just can't decide what to put on. I actually had this the other day, so I took, I think, 2 grams of cubensis mushrooms. Obviously don't advocate doing this at all, but this is just something that I ended up doing. And what was interesting was, when you're starting to come up, when it's really starting to take effect, especially when you're with other people who are also tripping, energies are sort of very present, aren't they? You can sense that, no, this person really doesn't want us to watch this, or this person would rather watch that. They've got sort of own ideas that, oh, I'd rather watch this at home, especially when because I was playing a game and I thought I was playing Dragon's Dogma 2 and I could feel myself just sort of, whoa, I'm really starting to feel it, Mr. Krabs. And I was like, right, let's put the game down. I'm all Dragon's Dogma'd out. So I was like, right, we ended up watching Moonwalker, the Michael Jackson film. Tell you what, that is one of the trippiest films I've ever seen in my whole life. Hilariously surreal and weird. So much going on in it, it's crazy. Brilliantly imaginative and creative film. It was the ultimate trip remedy because we just couldn't think of what to put on. We're like, oh, should we put on Shogun, that new series? But my other mate was like, nah, I'll watch it at home. Then I was like, oh, should we watch an anime? And then my other mate was like, oh, I don't know about that. So we just kept going back and forth until, my other mate had seen Moonwalker last week, and the first thing he thought was, oh, this is the best film to watch. I felt like I was on shrooms when I was watching it sober, so now it's the perfect time. So it does end up coming together, but it's so funny because it was like the universe was messing with us. I remember trying to put on Disney Plus and to put on that Shogun, and I could tell my other mate was like, oh, he didn't want to say it, but it's like, I'd really want to watch this just at home, but if the boys want to watch it, I'll go along with it. And then it's sort of like the universe guided us to an alternative suggestion, because when I tried putting my code in for Disney Plus to log in on the PS5, it just literally, the numbers wouldn't even tap in on my phone. And I was like, I kept passing the phone around like, can you figure it out? Can you get it working? I was like, literally, it just wouldn't let us on. It felt like the universe was fucking dictating what we were going to put on, and it was destined to be Moonwalker. So you just start losing your head for a bit when you're like, what should I put on when we need to relax on the come up, when it's getting like really intense and you just sort of landlocked to the sofa or something, feeling the intense waves of the come up, especially with mushrooms as well, which make me really quite physically uncomfortable. Yeah, there's a lot of discomfort and dysphoria with them, but the mental clarity is just beautiful. I'm very sensitive to psychedelics physically. They do make me not nauseous, but just sort of like, a bit uncomfortable. But yeah, as soon as we got Moonwalker on, everything was just like relaxed. I was like, oh my god, I can just let go now for the next hour and 20 minutes and let this weird, trippy, surreal, nightmare fuel comedy take over my state of being. So that was really interesting in this report. Obviously they couldn't figure out what to put on, and it's interesting that what you put on, especially when you're coming up and you're very, this person said that they were very much influenced by the feelings that what they were consuming, the music or the show, it was invoking it in them like 10 times over, and I get that a lot, and that's why you need to be careful with some stuff you put on. We had a bit of a joke overnight where I was like, imagine being the biggest sadist in the world, taking loads of acid and putting on like a Serbian film or Salo or like Antichrist or whatever. Just basically bad trip fuel. Although I bet there's some people out there who buzz off that. We're all wired up so differently. Who's to say what's right and what's wrong? But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this trip report. I know I've been having a bit of a break from them the past week or so. But yeah, we're back in action now. And I know you like the longer videos, so I'm going to try and make the trip report videos at least 20 minutes plus. Yep, expect more daily, near daily reports again. Supplemented by the sort of personal stories, the shed talks. We've got a lot of other stuff to talk about in the old shed. I know you guys really enjoyed the Untold Dangers of Psychedelic video. I enjoyed making it a lot. Probably my favourite videos to make, other than Chainsaw Mario-like. So, for anyone still listening, big love to you all. Thanks for supporting me. Don't forget to check out the Patreon, like, comment and subscribe. Join the Discord, all the links are in the description as per usual. Follow us on Instagram to see more Vivec shenanigans and also other insights into philosophy, the nature of life, psychedelics, and just general bit of banter. Right, see you on the other side.